Resurgent India Limited is a SEBI-registered Category 1 merchant bank established in 2005. We help financial institutions identify the right business entities and work with businesses to secure the right amount of capital at the right time, fostering stronger enterprises and a more resilient economy and society. With over 300 professionals and a nationwide presence, we are market leaders in debt syndication and stressed asset advisory. Resurgent offers a 360-degree service model, supporting businesses across their entire financial life cycle, from project appraisal, valuations, and regulatory compliance to capital raising for early and growth stage companies, and further, to stress resolution and insolvency advisory. We are with you at every critical stage. Tailored solutions to meet your needs. Resurgent India Knowledge Series presents live webinar on Budget 2026 – What Industry Needs Now. Moderator Ms. Sonal Mehta, Senior Vice President, Resurgent India Limited. Eminent speakers: Mr. Kunal Behrani, Chief Operating Officer, Unity Group; Mr. Arun Pandit, Founder, SCS; Mr. Ashok Kumar Pathak, Chief General Manager, Bank of India.
Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome each one of you for a very important session on pre-budget. I think, with budget just around the corner on Sunday, it'll be very interesting to have feedback from our eminent speakers today who are coming in from a diversified portfolio. So we have a real estate developer here. We have somebody from a warehousing here, and we also have a banker here. So it'll be very interesting to have their thoughts on what are their expectations out of budget today when we're talking about, and how would they like to plan their upcoming year based on the budget expectations that they have right now. If you ask me from an individual perspective, primarily there are a lot of expectations which are there in the real estate sector. कि developers को लगता है कि primarily, the brackets which these guys have been working on right now, कि land की cost तो बढ़ रही है, सब कुछ बढ़ रहा है, लेकिन when it comes to the subsidies or, giving any special privileges to the sector, which is missing. So probably, we would like to more understand from Kunalji what is his expectation of budget today, and how, probably this would reduce more on the project burden on the projects as such. Because today, the way the land costs and the other costs are going on, so even जो affordable projects भी हम बोलते थे पहले, वो भी अब affordability से काफी आगे निकल चुके हैं. So it will be interesting to have his thoughts. What are his expectations out of budget when we're talking about? And then coming on the warehouse side of the business, where Arun Panditji is coming in from. So I personally believe warehouse is scaling fast, but next budget lever is quality and efficiency, not just more sheds. We need the quality and the efficiency also to be maintained there. So how that can be achieved, and what is his expectation out of budget here, where he thinks, probably that can be possible from that perspective. But frankly speaking, from an individual perspective and an individual taxpayer perspective, if you ask me today, I feel, the budget has to be simple. आज की डेट में हम ये बोल सकते हैं the way the budgets are planned or the tax brackets are planned, तो कहीं पे भी ना clarity नहीं है कि there are so many tax which we pay today, कि पहले हम जो सैलरी आती है उसमें से जो खर्चा निकालना है हम चाहे उसके ऊपर टैक्स पे करते हैं today that we talk about, and then what is saved after all the expenses that we take it out, uske upar bhi tax pay karte hain. So I am not talking here about that probably we need to have less tax or more tax here. I'm only talking about clarity in the tax. जो slabs बनाई हैं, तो slabs I don't know, that probably how is that even applicable today, because there is no clarity on the tax brackets also that we're talking about here. So, I think from a personal perspective, when you talk about, I think there is more of clarity in the taxation which is required, which the individuals are paying today, so that, we are more compliant. I think, when there is a clarity on the tax, people are more compliant to pay the taxes also. I think that should impact. So this was just one thought which came out from my personal side. So with this, probably, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my eminent speakers. So I'll start with Mr. Kunal Behrani, who's the CEO of Unity Group, a multifaceted leader with cross-sector experience spanning real estate, automobile, retail, vertical, and horizontal transportation, and software process improvement. He has led end-to-end initiatives across project planning and conceptualization, strategy, marketing, and sales. Welcome to the panel, Kunalji. I think, you are besides being, people generally say diversified group. I think आपकी तो profile ही diversified है. You have worked sector across, and it will be very interesting to have your thoughts on the sectors also. So next is Mr. Arun Pandit. He's a co-founder Hyphen SES. Arun Panditji is a co-founder of the national award-winning startup Hyphen SES, India's largest integrated warehousing and fulfillment platform. He ranks in the top 1% of the supply chain sales professional globally, as per the LinkedIn Social Selling Index. Wonderful. I think, I have been interacting with Arunji almost for last 5, 6 years, at least we are talking about right now. So उस time पे, when he used to talk about his plans for warehousing and what he plans to do, उस time पे लगता था, कि probably how is he going to plan or achieve on those bases? Although, he was very clear about what he wants to achieve, but उस time पे warehousing as a sector was a very, very unorganized sector. तो आज की डेट में आई थिंक जितना भी डेवलपमेंट वेयर हाउसिंग में हो रहा है, अगर वो थोड़ा सा ऑर्गेनाइज हो रही है चीजें वहां पे, lot of credit goes to people like him who have extensively worked in the sector to make it little organized. Welcome to the panel, Arun.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
And my last speaker is Mr. Ashok Kumar Pathak. He's the CGM Bank of India, a banking leader with over 3 decades of experience across branch operations, zonal leadership, and national banking group roles. With broad exposure spanning financial inclusion, treasury, operations, and HR at Bank of India, he contributes to building a performance-driven organization aligned with business growth, profitability, and sustained client relationships. Amazing to have you on the panel, sir. So welcome to the panel. It will be very interesting to have your thoughts on the banking sector. Great. So with this, I would probably just start with the question answers. I'll begin with our banker this time. I'll start with Ashok Kumarji. So Ashok sir, while we are talking about budgets and the taxation plannings, everything this time for the coming year, my first question here would be household shares in the bank deposits fell from 64% in FY20 to 60% in FY25, and credit growth continues to outpace deposit growth, creating funding pressure. Do you think the government needs to do more to encourage long-term household saving in bank deposits? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Sonal. Thanks for this question. I think entire banking industry, including regulator in their various reports as of now, they are showing this concern that, okay, in banking sector, credit is outpacing deposit growth. Credit growth is basically outpacing deposit growth. So in percentage terms, I mean, just put the things in perspective. In percentage terms, of course, I mean, credit growth is at a higher percentage points compared to deposit growth. But in
Absolutely.
absolute terms, still I can say deposits in absolute terms, deposits are growing as a still with a higher amount compared to credits. But if you notice, I mean, this is this I should say this is the typical maturity pattern for any economy. In any mature economy, this is how it happens. I mean, over a period of time, with financialization of economy, uh, banking intermediation, it goes down, I should say, and slowly money starts moving to capital markets. And that is typically what is happening in India also. So, I mean, your number itself, it has shown, I mean, earlier, I mean, just 5 years back, the banking deposit was around 60%. In banking deposit, household savings, it contributed around 64%, and which has gone down to 60%. This is one statistics. Another data point is that, okay, if you look at, okay, on incremental basis, what is the amount flowing? I mean, incremental financial saving, what is the amount which is going into deposits and what is going into other, say mutual fund. So, I mean, just this data point that on incremental basis from annual saving of household, 35% is going towards deposits and 15% is going towards mutual funds. So this
Right.
I can say household savings percentage in deposit base, it is going to further go down. It is partially, I mean, there is a structural pattern to it. Okay, for any maturing economy, this is how it happens. But there is a cyclical hint to it also. So I mean, all of you will remember just 4 5 years back during when the economic cycle was not so good, and I mean, there was a COVID cycle. At that point of time, in fact, all the banks were flooded with deposits. In fact, rates have, I mean, on deposits, rates have bottomed out, and I mean, there was no credit demand, and there was flight towards safety for depositors or maybe financial savers, and everyone wanted to put their money in deposits also. And that time, that was the time, banks like us, in a way, there was a deposit growth was banks were not knowing what to do with this kind of deposit accretion. So that is any I mean, that is the cyclical part of it. Okay, as this point of time, economy is doing well by and large. Other asset classes are giving much better return. If you take equities, if you take, I mean, in any other class, like Bharaniji is there, you put in real estates, it is giving fantastic returns. If you put it in equities, it is giving fantastic returns. If you put in gold, it is giving better than any returns. And I mean, you can simultaneously liquidity as well. So those are the asset classes which are giving you much better returns. Vis-a-vis, I mean, deposit as a I mean, saving option for depositors. So maybe okay, price corrections come in these asset classes again. I mean, those cyclical trends will take place, and people will be moving to deposits. That is one. But structurally, I should say ki, I mean, over a period of time, economy moves into that direction where banks have to look for other resources to I mean, fund their credit growth, and that is happening also. I can say the difficult part to manage is not raising the resources. You must be aware that, okay, I mean, regulators all across, and especially new regulation, Basel regulation, it puts another ratio, it monitors another ratio which is called liquidity coverage ratio, LCR.
Right.
So looking at those LCR calculations and compositions, the way I mean, other funding resources are traded and the kind of runoff factor is applied on those resources, what will really be difficult to manage the LCR rather than, okay, really sourcing the I mean, funds for credit growth. That will not be a difficult aspect. Banks will get different options to fund their credit growth. But managing LCR is certainly it is going to be a challenging option for that, and it will have implication on NIM compression of the banks. Net interest margins are going to be compressed because for LCR there is one denominator factor that okay they have to raise durable resources, which is dwindling over a period of time. But they have to put in very high quality liquid assets on numerator part of managing LCR. And those high
Right.
quality liquid assets, certainly, I should say, okay, those are in general very low return giving assets, and that is how the NIMs of banks are going to be compressed. So these are the all I can say, structural and cyclical factors which are affecting this phenomena. Of course, with the, suppose asset classes have any market correction or price correction, this trend may be reversing to certain extent, but structurally, I think it will move into that direction. As far
So
as your
here,
question, okay,
I
what is
would
the
just like to add one more thing which I was requesting about. आपको government से क्या support लगना चाहिए?
yeah, I was coming to that point only.
Right.
So, if these are the, I can say, behavioral pattern and economy as a whole, whatever happens, the equitization and moving of savings towards equity. But what is expected from government is not to create a kind of tax arbitrage amongst different class of assets or for the individuals. So what is happening today okay, suppose a person invests into, say, equity. So equity, the kind of capital gains which is applied on equity and the kind of tax which is applied on any interest earning on deposits, it is still favoring, capital gains, it is rather than deposits. So, and especially for, senior citizens and the people who prefer to invest in a safe return kind of assets. Anything which is, tax, any earning, any interest earning which is tax, it is really, I think, problematic area. And I think for any banker, expectation from government is to at least to, if not, they can completely remove the taxation on interest earnings. They should at least increase this limit from 10,000 80 TTA, which we call Section 80 TTA limit. It should be increased from 10,000 at least to 50,000 for any household. This 50,000 interest income is, at least to that extent, it need to be increased. And simultaneously for, senior citizens, 80 TTB, limit should be increased significantly. They can bring, small savings in, tax saving arbitrage, which is there between bank deposit and small saving deposits of government. That arbitrage need to be, removed from the system. These are the, I can say, couple of things which we expect from government at least to, take very very clear steps in these directions, because otherwise for India's growth, credit growth is must, deployment is must for India if India has to grow. And for banks to grow their credit portfolio, deposit growth is essential. The deposits have to grow. So I think government has to take several steps, so that banks are able to protect their deposit base and simultaneously grow equally in their deposit. Because through their credit, the basic money multiplier effect which happens now, it is not there in any other asset class. It is only through credit that money multiplier effect happens.
Completely.
And that is how, banks play a very important role. And at least this much we expect from the government.
Absolutely. I think, sir, very well said that, if this is not done, so the situation can actually get worse, which will be difficult to manage from the economic point of view. I think very well taken. Thank you so much. Now, when we're talking about taxation here, my next question here will be to Kunal Behrani. So tax regularization remains the key expectation from budget 26, developers continue to cite the high GST burden on construction service as a constraint on project viability. Does the current GST structure on construction distort project economics? Your views?
For sure. Thank you very much, Sonal, for first of all, inviting me out here. I am not from a finance background, but I can definitely give my layman's point of view. Let me put it this way.
You are from a good experienced developer's background, so I think that covers everything.
I'll still be a layman when it comes to financial issues, but I can definitely say a couple of things out here. When it comes to residential, we need to pay the GST to all our vendors, to all the service providers. बट हमें इनपुट क्रेडिट उस पर नहीं मिलता है. कस्टमर से जब हम कार्ड करते हैं तो हमें इनपुट क्रेडिट हमें नहीं मिलता है. It's a burden which comes to us while we are constructing the entire building, but at the same time हमें कोई इनपुट क्रेडिट मिलता नहीं है. कस्टमर अपने आप से उसको डबल बर्डन लगता है, बिकॉज कस्टमर को इसमें जीएसटी भी देना है और बाद में रजिस्ट्री भी करानी है. Now it's very strange, people say that रजिस्ट्री तो करानी पड़ेगी, क्यों नहीं कराएंगे रजिस्ट्री? रजिस्ट्री तो सरकार को देनी है, बट मैं जीएसटी भी दे रहा हूँ, उसके ऊपर मैं रजिस्ट्री भी दे रहा हूँ. So it's a double burden which comes on the consumer out here. And consumer already जो प्रॉपर्टी खरीद रहा है उसमें आपको जीएसटी पहले से लगी है. So जो जीएसटी लगी, मेरे पे लगी, मैंने कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट में उसको मैं बिल्ड इन करके चल रहा हूँ, उसके ऊपर कंस्ट्रक्शन को, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी कस्टमर को भी लगी, क्योंकि 5% तो वो भी दे रहा है. सो इवेंचुअली वो टैक्स पेड मनी, 2 बार जीएसटी लग रही है उसके ऊपर, उसको वो उसकी रजिस्ट्री भी करा रहा है. सो इट्स अ लॉट ऑफ बर्डन व्हिच इज कमिंग ऑन द कंज्यूमर एज सच. Now, including ourselves for that matter, we got some rebates last year. जैसे एयर कंडीशनिंग पे लास्ट ईयर तक 28% का जीएसटी था, which was phenomenally high. आप मुझे बताइए, अगर 28% का जीएसटी किस एंगल से जस्टिफाइड है ऑन एयर कंडीशनिंग, which is considered to be a luxury good. I mean, अगर एयर कंडीशनिंग अगर लग्जरी है आज की डेट में, तो फिर तो हम क्या ही बात करें. तो हम मारुति 800 पे भी हम लग्जरी ही मान लेते हैं उसको. इतना ज्यादा डिस्पैरिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए. और उसको खैर 18% कर दिया लास्ट ईयर ऑलमोस्ट अबाउट नवंबर के आसपास या अक्टूबर के आसपास उसको 18% कर दिया गया. From 28. But even 18% we feel is not justified when you are doing residential buildings in Delhi NCR, जहां पे आप already हर चीज पे you are cash strapped. Government comes in and stalls the work. I'm not saying the government stalls the work, but CAQM comes in and all these AQI आपका बढ़ जाता है. Delhi NCR
3 months you can't do anything.
3 to 4 months you can't do anything in Delhi. और ये सबका बर्डन डेवलपर के ऊपर पड़ता है. आपने कोई प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंस ले रखा होता है, बैंक उसको कोई कंसीडर नहीं करता. बैंक को कोई मतलब नहीं है कि आपका कंस्ट्रक्शन चल रही है या रुकी हुई है. वो कहता है जी डेवलपरों पैसे दे जाओ. Where I'm coming from is a very simple element, that why can't we consider all these elements in the next budget and make it simpler for the developer and make it make a policy where it becomes viable, not just viable, it becomes much more उसको एक push मिलता है developer को, rather than pulling him down. We're trying to pull the developer down who's making houses for the common people. उसको आप नीचे लेके आते जा रहे हैं. वो ऑब्वियसली प्राइसिंग बढ़ाएगा कहीं ना कहीं, बिकॉज उसको भी जस्टिफाई करना. he's in a business. We are not there for charity. So अगर हमें काम करना है, अगर हमें बिजनेस करना है, तो हमें वायबल चीजें मिलनी चाहिए. आज आपने एक चीज पहले बोली थी अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के बारे में. सो अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग की मैं बात करता हूँ. अफोर्डेबल दिल्ली में कुछ भी अफोर्डेबल नहीं है. मैं एनसीआर में कह सकता हूँ, बड़ी आराम से मैं कह सकता हूँ, एनसीआर में एक नॉर्मल 2 bedroom अपार्टमेंट अगर आपको खरीदना है फ्रॉम अ डेवलपर, द प्राइसिंग स्टार्ट्स एट almost about 2.5 to 3 crores, which is
any decent developer
phenomenally high. I mean, considering कब कितना कोई होम लोन ले सकता है, कोई सैलरी प्रोफेशन कितना होम लोन ले सकता है, तो अफोर्डेबिलिटी है ही नहीं. अफोर्डेबिलिटी नहीं है उस चीज में. उसका रीजन है क्योंकि हमें लैंड ही नहीं मिलती है. सब्सिडाइज रेट पे मिलेगी तो कोई अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग बनाएगा, नहीं तो कैसे बना लेगा? बना ही नहीं सकता, वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. और कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट ऊपर ही ऊपर जाती है।
हाँ,
बड़े
रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट, लैंड कॉस्ट, सब कुछ तो बढ़ रहा है.
everything
देन
going up.
हाउ डू यू मेक अफोर्डेबल एज अ
You can't.
डेफिनेशन? आई
You
थिंक अब
can't.
तो अफोर्डेबल का इनको ब्रैकेट ही चेंज कर देना चाहिए.
सब कुछ चेंज कर देना चाहिए। सब कुछ चेंज कर देना चाहिए, या फिर उसको एक्चुअली सब्सिडाइज करके आपको डेवलपर को वो इंसेंटिवाइज करके उसे कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, इज व्हाट आई फील. सो यस, यू नो, डेफिनेटली बर्डन डेफिनेटली आता है जीएसटी का हमारे ऊपर, जो आपने पहले क्वेश्चन पूछा था. तो बहुत इमेंस बर्डन आता है हमारे ऊपर, और क्योंकि हमें इनपुट क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है उसके ऊपर, खासकर रेजिडेंशियल में, कमर्शियल में मिलता है हमको. ठीक है. तो हमारे रेजिडेंशियल बनाने में उतना कोई ल्यूक्रेटिवनेस आती नहीं है. From the last 4 years, you've seen the markets growing, which is why, you know, everything has quadrupled or tripled or doubled at least in the NCR market, which is why you're feeling very good. People feel that, you know, residential में बहुत ज़्यादा आता है. But overall, अगर मैं बात करूं, तो इतना buoyancy हर टाइम पे नहीं रहेगी, इतनी तेजी हर टाइम पे नहीं रहेगी. So yes, GST needs to be curtailed and policies need to be simplified for a developer to work, you know, more progressively in the real estate sector.
एब्सोल्युटली. एंड यू नो, अगर आप बोल रहे हो कि आप कमर्शियल में तो दे रहे हो लेकिन आप रेजिडेंशियल में नहीं दे रहे हो इनपुट क्रेडिट, सो दैट्स अनदर क्वेश्चन हियर, बिकॉज़ रेजिडेंशियल इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट टुडे व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अ कॉमन मैन.
It is 100 times more important than commercial.
उसको आप कम से कम बेसिक्स तो दोगे. यू नीड टू गिव एटलीस्ट यू नो अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग टू पीपल दैट यू टॉकिंग अबाउट. एंड दैट्स, यू नो, आई जनरली टेल पीपल दैट्स वन ऑफ द रीजंस that probably people who were doing incredible work in affordable housing, the developers who were doing incredible work in affordable housing, who started with affordable housing projects and done commendable work, have stopped doing now.
Because it's not feasible anymore.
हाँ, तो बोलते हैं भैया हम ही थोड़ी ना सीएसआर करते रहेंगे सारा टाइम. You don't want to give us, you don't want to give us any benefits, you don't want to give us any rebates, and then you come back and tell कि आप affordable बना लो. हम कहाँ से बना लेंगे?
नहीं बना सकते.
So that's, you know, that's a sad part of the story, that people, you know, who are actually doing such amazing work and got a lot of appreciation than that. इससे कि बहुत, you know, it's difficult. Sustainability is difficult. So
Plus,
I think
एक कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट की बात करते हैं, तो from the time we get the project till the time we actually can, you know, lay the first foundation of that project, सैंक्शंस में इतना टाइम लगता है, इतना चीजें लगता है कि आपका वो वायबिलिटी बहुत बार खत्म होने की कगार पे आ जाता है. सो यू नो, अगर 2-2 साल लग जाएंगे, अगर साल लग जाएगा किसी को खाली सैंक्शनिंग कराने में, तो आप कहाँ से लैंड खरीद के आप उसमें बना पाएंगे?
True. I think very well noted both the points. One is the sanctioning and approvals window that can be shortened with the government interference coming in. And yes, the residential के ऊपर अगर input credit हम लोगों को मिल पाएगा, so that will help the developers do better work and get more customers at affordable housing.
If the government feels that 5% is too low when it comes to the, you know, consumer, आप उसको बढ़ा दीजिए, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन इनपुट क्रेडिट दीजिए so that we can pass it on to the customers as well.
True. I think very important point covered. So I'll come back to you on the next one.
Sure.
So,
but before Sonal, I would like to just double click on the point Mr. Kunal raised earlier. I mean, about registry cost.
Yes.
Hanji,
I mean,
what's the
charges, registry, that is absolutely, I don't know okay, why there should be such cost.
बिल्कुल. मतलब सर आप 2 बार जीएसटी ले रहे हो, फिर आप रजिस्ट्री की भी कॉस्ट ले रहे हो.
Yeah, and it is
that's not justifiable.
12%, 13% इस तरह के रेट्स हैं जो है डिफरेंट स्टेट्स में. एंड I mean, okay, it has not only, I mean, registration cost per se, it is very heavy. Simultaneously, it has other unseen effects also. If you see many times what happens just to, I mean, save on their registration cost, people फिर black, white, ये सारे issues governance के आते हैं. I think it's a very, very important point that these kind of, I mean, costs should be removed from registration of properties.
नहीं, आप उससे जस्टिफाइबल कर दीजिए. लेट्स से मैं एग्जांपल देता हूं. क्या सो मैं एग्जांपल में, दिल्ली में ऐसे भी जगहें हैं जहां पे मुश्किल से जो रजिस्ट्री की जो आपका सर्कल रेट है, दैट इज लेट्स से अबाउट 50 lakhs, बट वहां पे प्रॉपर्टी की वैल्यू इज मोर देन 5 crores. ठीक है,
हाँ,
अगर आप 50 लाख पे रजिस्ट्री करा रहे हैं और 5 करोड़ की उसकी वैल्यू है अदरवाइज मार्केट की, आप उसे एक जस्टिफाइबल कॉस्ट में ले आइए, आपको फिर भी रजिस्ट्री मैं कह रहा हूं सरकार को उतनी ही मिलेगी, लेकिन उसको आप 2 या 3% कर दीजिए इंस्टेड ऑफ 7 और 8%।
हाँ, which is not justifiable at all.
जस्टिफाइबल,
वो
आप उसे
costing it
उसको
justified नहीं।
सर्कुलेट को सही कर दीजिए ताकि आप मच मोर ट्रांसपेरेंट डीलिंग हो जाए।
Very important point. So great. So I will go to Arun Pandit ji now. So while we are talking about policies right now, another aspect, related to budget and policies here. So Arun ji, while the warehousing capacity is rising fast and connectivity is improving, should the focus now shift from capacity creation to enabling smarter technology-driven storage solutions? What sort of policies can now help that shift? Since you've been very closely working with this sector, so what are your thoughts? What are the kind of policies you think which will help move this shift?
Sure. Thanks a lot. So, see, at a broader level, yes, I think in many corridors, the policy priority should now focus from more capacity to more productivity per square feet. Just to give you a broader example, in India, the average, you can say, efficiency or space utilization in a operational warehouse is around 65 to 70%. But in, you can say, developed countries, or you can say even the normal benchmark standard is that it should be somewhere around 85%. So there's already a 15-20% delta in the warehousing cost, specifically in the last mile, which is considered to be the most expensive leg of logistics. So if we are saying that our logistic cost of a country at a broader level is in double digits, and it's like a 3-4% delta as compared to a developed country, in order to push the Make in India incentive, in order to make logistics more efficient, it's not just that you have multiple warehouses, but also how efficiently are you able to kind of operate those warehouses. And in order to build them efficiently, the first thing that comes into mind is the gradation of things. So although capacity is still needed in underserved regions, some of the underserved regions, some of the underserved niches like cold chain, hazardous, chemicals, etc., where capacity building is still required because we do not have enough. But India's biggest competitive gain can come from technology-led, standard-led, and energy-efficient warehousing. Now, I'll kind of try to put in some figures so that gives you an idea about why this shift makes sense. And India has got about 1 million warehouses. 10 lakh के आसपास warehouses हैं. Out of these 10 lakh warehouses, around 83% of the warehouses are less than 30,000 square feet. 55% of the warehouses are less than 10,000 square feet. Average warehousing size is, say, somewhere around 10 to 12,000 square feet as per the government of India. According to us, it's around 15 to 20,000 square feet. But even if you compare with other peers, say China average warehousing size is 50 to 60,000 square feet. US, it's 1 lakh square feet plus. What the bigger size portrays is, if it's a bigger size warehouse, a higher probability it's a more standardized graded warehouse. It has more automation into it. It is using proper dedicated softwares for respect to warehousing and supply chain, and it is more efficient. So at a broader level, as far as the capacity is considered, you can say the organized market is doing well. We say that around 500 million square feet of area warehousing space is available. Organized market and in major cities. So it's a minuscule part of the entire ecosystem. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities in the organized market is still contributing 100 million square feet. So the network built is out and it's well underway. As far as absorption is considered, if you look into the absorption, as per reports by top IPCs like Colliers, in 2025, there was around 37 million square feet of absorption, and around 40 million square feet was being developed, grade A facility. So development is happening at its own pace. But if you look into the efficiency of this thing, as far as the efficiency of these warehouses are considered, that is a big challenge. What I think is, so what we need to do is we have to kind of improve the connectivity, which would kind of increase the warehouse productivity and bring in modal shifts towards the next levers. One of the other important thing is sustainability is becoming table stakes. Now, as of now, since there is a lot of push towards the government, also more and more listed companies would have to report their ESG norms, which were good to have. Now it become compulsory. Next, it will. So a lot of these things are going to happen, and people are wary of the fact. A lot of our clients are also shifting based towards they want their warehouses to be green. They want a positive you can say ESG footprint. So we anticipate that the warehousing stocks would increase by almost, 4x, 5x in the next 2 to 3 years for the green warehousing. So in order to push green warehousing, the challenge right now is only the bigger clients, like multinational companies where they have a mandate globally, are pushing towards it, and then regional players, even big players, are not focusing much towards it because of the cost of building these warehouses. There's no, you can say, immediate ROI. So we need to create policies that lower the cost of green tech upgrades, so that at a broader level it creates a longer term impact instead of just short term gains. So while supply is scaling and quality is improving, the bottleneck moves towards throughput, accuracy, compliance, cost, and resilience. So smart warehousing, in simplified word, we need to move towards a smart warehousing. Smart warehousing, and how do we define a smart or technology-driven storage or warehousing? We should have some, you can say, policy terminology for warehousing instead of just having a grade A, grade B warehousing. Whether it's level 1 can be space plus basic compliance. You've got space and you are following the basic compliance. Level 2 might have digitized operation. You are using WMS, TMS, barcodes, scanners, e-documentation. Level 3 might be related to IoT devices, automation. Level 4 might be related to interoperability of data, because right now data is in silos. So even the government does have very limited data. PM Gati Shakti has been built. It's a very good initiative, but right now it's only open to public companies. So private companies do not have access to that data. So as of now, we cannot make good use of it, and we cannot even share data there. So still the data remains in silos. Now that silos have become two-pronged, one is the government-related data and one is the you can say private sector data.
Private sector data. Right.
So right now we are kind of intermingling between the level 1 and 2 basic plus basic compliance with some digitized operations. And even if you look into the digitized operation in India, almost 90% of the warehouses don't use a warehouse management system or a transport management system to operate. So if warehouse being the epicenter of logistics, and logistics almost 12 to 14% of direct indirect cost of GDP, if it is not digitized, the inefficiencies are there to see, and that I've told you in the numbers before. So the policy shift that I kind of feel would be beneficial is that kind of create a national warehouse modernization program. Instead of just building new warehouses, how do we modernize existing warehouses? Because India's population is increasing, purchasing power is increasing. We are focusing towards Make in India. We cannot build the infrastructure so fast, even if we want to build the infrastructure, but inefficiencies are there in the existing system. And these inefficiencies, if we can improve, we can already a 20% increase in efficiency in existing warehouse. You cannot create 20% of asset, maybe in even 5 years, which is there.
Absolutely.
So we can have some incentives list linked to measurable KPIs, whether it's with respect to inventory movement, dock station timing, shrinkages, energy usage per square feet, something like that, on delivery, and also with respect to eligible investments. Are you using a WMS? Have you put in some IoT device? What are the safety measures that you put in? Have you put in some automation?
Standard.
Because the thing is that, so I am part of the committee which is assisting with ADB, Asian Development Bank, in which we are trying to create a warehousing grading and rating system. So that is a good initiative. The challenge is there is no incentive to do it. You get a rating, you get a ranking, of course. But why would I put in capex? In India, logistics and supply chain is considered to be a cost center, not a profit center. So जब भी आपका cost कुछ बढ़ेगा तो लोग कहेंगे logistics से squeeze in कर लो. So why would they put in money just to get a better rating, unless and until there is some incentive behind it?
For that.
So
Absolutely.
whenever if you talk about modernization, if it doesn't have incentive, it doesn't have any kind of, you can say, maybe some accelerated depreciation or investment allowance for racking system, cold chain equipment, energy management system. अगर हम उसको नहीं देंगे, or maybe some credit guarantee schemes, priority style lending for the upgradation of these warehouses, no one will upgrade the warehouses. So हम बोलते रहेंगे हाँ ESG अच्छा होना चाहिए. It's like the famous quote which is said that everyone loves the martyr, but would you like to be one? सब कहेंगे हाँ शहीद बहुत अच्छे, बोले आप बनोगे? नहीं बनेंगे. So unless and until there is certain incentive associated with it, very limited people would go in for the long term. Everyone is thinking of the short term. Everyone is thinking at a monthly basis. Monthly payment देख रहे हैं. 4 साल 6 साल में लोग उतना देख भी नहीं रहे. The other thing is, like I said, government is coming up with standards, government is coming up with rating, but can we make those rating and compliances or standards bankable? Can we get a faster approval on the basis of the rating? Can we get lower insurance premiums because we are rated in a certain kind? Can we get preferential access to government PSU warehousing tenders? Can we get
all that needs to be factored?
interest rate subvention, like for example, Kunal sir is from the home segment, but there's a concept of subvention which is very popular there. Can we have some interest rate subvention for rated warehouse or upgraded warehouse? Such kind of concept are right now even not even discussed. So, and last thing is primarily more towards, of course, once the systems are in place, that is a higher level of maturity in which the data is getting, so we accept EPODs, proof of deliveries. Right now, most of the people accept hard copy PODs. And because of this, the payment term, a lot of the PODs are lost, a lot of the PODs, it takes time to get there. So there is a whole, it's like a cash सेविंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट. आप पीओडी लेट करोगे, पैसा उसका बचा रहेगा, आपको लेट देना पड़ेगा. So instead of why don't we get into the EPOD manner so that the whole logistic and supply chain becomes more efficient, and we have certain APIs which are standardized.
That's a tech part of it. That's a tech part of it.
That is a tech part of it, but because, for example, e-way bill is already there, so all of this, all of the basic infrastructure is there. So getting into an EPOD is just a matter of, you can say, implementation. It will not take much of the time. And the other thing is, instead of, there are a lot of small players creating WMS, etc., and every one of them have a standard format, different format. So instead of it, why don't we do a standardized format which is maybe government approved, built in collaboration with industry, so that all of these things become it kind of reduces friction at an overall level. But so GST compliance is of course can be simplified at a broader level. Single window clearance is not there. There are 20, out of all the states and union territories have got different policies. We are working on a one India, one policy kind of thing. Different policy, different permissions. There are more than 70 permissions which are required: pre-construction, during construction, post-construction. So remembering those 70. So that is also a big challenge. So the bottom line is, yes, as capacity and connectivity rises, the next 10% of productivity will come from digitization, automation, standards, green efficiency, and interoperability, not just adding more square feet.
100% completely agree that, you know, अगर हम आज की डेट में, when we're talking about modern warehouses, so we should have a modern warehousing program which can be implemented, and उसके अंदर अगर हमको guidelines, incentives for people who want to do green warehousing, if we can give that, that will motivate people to probably think from that perspective. I know Bootus does that. बूटस ने अभी कुछ ग्रीन वेयरहाउसिंग वगैरह का काम शुरू किया, and they've been decently working with couple of existing warehouses and couple of real estate buildings where they are converting them into green. हाँ, but वहां पे भी यही चैलेंज आता है जी, इंसेंटिव क्या है? Why do we do it? So it's like, you know, जब हम खर्चा इसके अंदर कर रहे हैं, अगर हम किसी वेयरहाउस को एग्जिस्टिंग को कन्वर्ट कराने के लिए उसके अंदर 15-20 करोड़ का कैपेक्स कर रहे हैं, so there is no incentive that we get. ना हमें लोन सस्ता मिलता है, ना हमारे को कुछ और इंसेंटिव मिलता है. So these guys are also probably looking at some thought process.
क्लाइंट हर बार बोलता है कि कॉस्ट कम. क्लाइंट आपको बोलेगा, आप बोलेगे हम ग्रेड ए बना रहे हैं, हम ऑटोमेटेड बना रहे हैं, हम ग्रीन बना रहे हैं, बोलो सब कुछ अच्छा है, लेकिन कॉस्ट मैं उतनी दूंगा, उससे कम कर सकते हो. So that is how it operates.
So that's the same thing which Kunal ji was mentioning about कि affordable क्यों करना है, क्योंकि इंसेंटिव तो कुछ है नहीं. So I think both these conclude to same thing कि हाँ ठीक है, अगर कुछ अच्छा करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, somebody is trying to do something from the sustainability side or affordability side, at least we need that support from the government to do it. कुछ subsidies, कुछ incentives, कुछ तो आप उसको दोगे ताकि वो at least उसको complete कर पाए.
हम पता है सिर्फ इतना कहते हैं एज डेवलपर्स, हम सिर्फ इतना कहते हैं, अगर हमसे आप EDC IDC ले रहे हो, कम से कम उसको खर्च दो. लेबर फीस ले रहे हो, उसको खर्च.
Absolutely.
इतना ही important. अगर आप हमसे रजिस्ट्री के पैसे ले रहे हो, कम से कम रोड्स तो बना दो. इतना ही कह रहे हैं.
हाँ, that's the part of it कि at least वो खर्चा ले रहे हो उसको use तो करो, use it somewhere. Great. So that takes me to my next question to Ashok sir. So Ashok sir, while we are on technology, we are discussing on technology, only 18% of the MSMEs have tapped digital lending platforms, according to survey by SIBI. Even though 90% new accept digital payments, 90% now accept digital payments, what's holding digital lending back? What should it take for digital lending to MSMEs to take off again? मतलब अगर हम MSMEs की बात करें, तो वहाँ पे digital lending as such is not very common. मतलब आउट ऑफ द डेटा विच सिडबी हैज गिवन सिर्फ 18% लोग अभी जो एमएसएमईज हैं वो डिजिटल पे हैं। बाकी जगह अभी वैसे भी पुराना जिस तरीके से कैश का काम चलता था उसी तरीके से ये लोग काम कर रहे हैं, उसी बेसिस पे कर रहे हैं। सो व्हाट आर द इनिशिएटिव्स व्हिच probably the government should take to promote digital among the MSMEs?
Yeah, thanks, Sonal. Again, a very, I can say, very important question. So, I mean, number one, let's try to understand that, okay, digitization of payment is not equivalent to digitization of credit. Both things are a little different. So, you're right that, okay, 90% of MSMEs today, I mean, they are into digital payment. But it's not only the payment through which credit can be purveyed to those MSMEs. It's not only, I mean, so number one, even suppose you want to reach out to those MSMEs based on their digital footprint, the next question is comes that whether, I mean, that digital footprint is number one visible to the banks or to the lenders. First question is this. Secondly, whether, I mean, that MSME is ready to give control over that cash flow to their lenders, and that is where we find there is a lot of reluctance on part of, I mean, MSMEs. Generally, they are very reluctant in giving control on their cash flows to their lenders. Some or other, I mean, this particular, I feel okay, it is aspect of trust. I mean, lenders and borrowers, they are not having, I mean, they have not been able to generate that kind of trust amongst themselves, where, I mean, borrowers are ready to give complete control of their cash flows, and lenders are, I mean, very responsibly use that cash flow, and based on that, they are able to build a proper credit portfolio. So that remains a, I can say, fundamental issue to solve. Secondly, I mean, most of these, if you see, most of these payment channels are, it is being, it has been built by parties like, I mean, Paytm's, PhonePe's, BharatPe's, or, I mean, those kinds. So if we say 90%, so large part of it, UPI network, which we call, it is basically, I mean, GPay's, PhonePe's, BharatPe's, and all those things. They have been able, and they have done fabulous job in building that, I should say, structure. That's fantastic. I mean, fabulous job they have done. But unfortunately, they are not ready to, I mean, permit lenders, because ultimately they are not lenders. Lenders are ultimately going to be the banks.
Banks,
And,
obviously. That's
yeah,
only a platform.
that is platform, and they are not ready to, I mean, leverage that or permit or allow banks to leverage that platform to unlock the value. So problem is okay, the kind of I mean, the kind of fee they are asking for unlocking the potential of this platform, it is huge. So I mean, I will just put this number, some number around it. So today, I mean, because I mean, as a bank personally, I try to associate, collaborate with a few of these, all these big names, including Google Pays, Paytms, and PhonePe's, BharatPe's. And with a request, ki boss, whatever structure you have built there, just permit me that cash flow to be screwed in favor of banks. And based on that, we will lend it to MSMEs, and we will pay a fee to you also, no problem. I mean, only thing is already that structure is there. Payments are happening on your platform. That platform, you just give a control on that cash flow, so that we are able to build a lending portfolio and let it keep on happening for you. There is no incremental investment or incremental effort on your part required. And you'll be surprised to, I mean, yeah, this the kind of fee they are, I mean, expecting is 15%, 18%, just for, I mean, providing this, or, I mean, leveraging, I mean, permitting the banks to leverage their platform. And this is one of the fundamental paradox we need to solve, that अगर हम आज की डेट में अपनी एमएसएमईज को फिजिकल फॉर्म में 10 से 11% पे लेंड कर रहे हैं, 9 से 10%, 8% से लेकर 11%
प्लेटफॉर्म को
लेंड
इतना
कर रहे
कैसे
हैं,
दोगे?
और अगर वो डिजिटल फॉर्म में वो लेंडिंग रेट बढ़ करके 35% 36% हो जाता है, देन व्हाट इज आई मीन रेशनल बिहाइंड मेकिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स डिजिटल? आई मीन एब्सोल्युटली इट लूजेस इट्स रेशनल. And that is the kind of, I mean, fee they are expecting or they are charging. And it is one of the, I can say, the foundational reason we are not able to solve. Because same effort, suppose another bank or another payment aggregator need to build, I think for economy, it is a huge cost. Suppose कि okay, one bank tomorrow SBI or for that matter Bank of India के हम अपना payment system बनाएंगे,
पेमेंट प्लेटफॉर्म बना
तो
लेते हैं.
that will be a replication duplication of the same thing. That structure is already there. Only thing is they have to somehow or other reduce their expectation. Even 2%, 3%, 4% पे भी जो है bank will be very happy to build a proper lending, I mean, portfolio on that, provided they are ready to unlock the value. So this is one example I am telling you, okay, how things are not, I mean, banks are not able to unlock. Simultaneously, there are many other, still there are many friction in terms of ki, okay, I mean, borrowers, the kind of consent or the reluctance which they show in terms of giving consent for solving the information asymmetry issue. So let us, I mean, for any, I mean, MSME, bank as a lender wants ki boss give us visibility what is happening, how much GST based sales you are doing or purchase you are doing. Just give this data, and based on that, I mean, okay, banks are today having product ki okay, आपका 1 करोड़ का अगर GST टर्नओवर है तो मैं आपको जो है इमीडिएटली, अगर साल का 5 करोड़ का है तो मैं 1 करोड़ की लिमिट तुरंत देता हूँ, जो है विदाउट कोलेटरल, विदाउट एनीथिंग. But unfortunately, this also is not being, I mean, sorted out. There is, I mean, I can only say it's a problem.
Transparency issue.
It's a problem of somewhere trust also, that I mean, customers are reluctant, hesitant in you. I mean, sharing this information in terms of account aggregator framework, in terms of GST framework, and there are some operational issues also. Customers, if they are ready to share, then उनका password और ये सारी चीजें, there is a consent framework already there in a regulated environment. So based on that consent, at least I mean, lenders should be in a position to fetch that database and create, I mean, lending portfolio. But even that is not at, I mean, for GST they want कि okay, GST पे जो उनका user ID password है वही use होना चाहिए. So all those things, you know, there are some operational frictions. There is some, at the high level, I should say, there is issue of trust also.
So
that it,
platform, one is the platform cost that you mentioned. उसके बाद आप बोल रहे हैं कि ट्रांसपेरेंसी और ऑपरेशनल के इश्यूज हैं, which you suggest if the government can probably get into this and provide some solution there, so we should be able to do.
I mean, let me put it this way. Government सिर्फ इतना कर दे जो है, I mean, 2-3 things from, if we have to, I mean, request to the government. One is कि ओके, GST के लिए आप उसका GST सर्वर पे जो यूजर आईडी पासवर्ड है वो मत मांगिए. जो है बैंक के अपने, अगर वो मोबाइल ऐप से यूजर आईडी पासवर्ड यूज करके कस्टमर, इफ दे वांट टू फेच their GST data, and based on that I mean GST data in a validated way, banks are able to lend, I mean, permit at least this much operational is. Second, I would say one important thing, okay, slowly manufacturing, I mean, base of manufacturing is going down, and services sector, it is, I mean, increasing. CGT MSE fee guarantee support, that is, I mean, very, I mean, a great help to the lenders as well as to SMEs also, that is government is giving. But one important thing which is missing today is ki, okay, any CGT MSE support, it is given only to those units where there is some sort of asset is there. एसेट इन द सेंस कि ओके, सपोज वो अगर बिजनेस कर रहा है, उसमें करंट एसेट है, स्टॉक्स है, या मतलब कुछ और उसकी प्लांट है, मशीनरी है, इस तरह की चीजें हैं, देन ओनली CGT-MSE इज गिवन. बट सर्विसेज सेक्टर में जितने हैं वहां पे कोई भी करंट एसेट क्रिएट नहीं होता है. लेट अस से कि ओके, कोई आदमी अपना एक रेस्टोरेंट चला रहा है रेंटेड प्रीमाइसेस में, कोई उसका एसेट क्रिएट नहीं होता है. इन यूनिट्स को जो है CGT-MSE गारंटी नहीं मिलती है जो है. सो इवन फॉर सर्विसेज सेक्टर वेयर देयर इज नो एसेट क्रिएशन, देयर इज नो करंट एसेट इज, आई मीन, created, even for those units, if CGTMSE guarantee is extended, I think that will help in a big way to all, at least all those units which are operating, or all those entrepreneurs who are going to, who are thinking of starting their business in services sector.
गॉट इट सर। तो आप बोल रहे हैं एक तो जो जीएसटी का यूजर आईडी एंड पासवर्ड है वो उनसे ना मांगा जाए, और दूसरा जो हम बोल रहे हैं कि सर्विस इंडस्ट्री के अंदर अगर हम CGD-SME अलाउ कर देते हैं तो probably that will encourage more entrepreneurs to get in on that basis. Very well taken. And I completely agree जो आप challenges बोल रहे हैं. One is the platform cost that we're talking about. Two is the transparency that we're talking about. And which also impacts the operational issues that coming up. Thank you so much,
Right.
sir. Point well taken. I will go back to Kunal ji on this. So when we are talking about policies, we're talking about budget. So there's another thing, stamp duty. Stamp duty and registration charges vary widely across states. Some variations is understandable given difference in property markets. However, greater uniformity could improve the affordability in high duty states and enhance price transparency across markets. In the union budget, should the center nudge states towards greater uniformity in stamp duty rates? I think very important from a real estate perspective, अगर हम stamp duty भी कुछ regular और कुछ standard उसका fix कर दें for states, that would really help.
Well, your one perspective says that you should definitely look at, unifying the entire thing and make it simpler for all the people across India to go register a property from anywhere. Because the condition of, the authorities is just, it's unexplainable. All of us have been there. We understand, कि किस तरीके से registries होती हैं. But keeping that aside for a minute, the entire process of getting a property registered should be so clean throughout India. Plus, आपका अगर आप उसे सब्सिडाइज तो नहीं बोलूंगा, अगर उसे आप एक आज बात 7-8% के आसपास का लगता है या 6% लगता है, if you can possibly get it down to about 3 to 4% or maybe 2%, and do it much more openly and उसको आप स्टैंडर्डाइज कर दीजिए अक्रॉस इंडिया, इट विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प getting more registries done. आज के डेट में अगर 100 हो रही हैं तो मैं बोलूंगा ये कम से कम नहीं तो 500 के आसपास चला जाएगा स्टेट ऑफ नंबर. The government tends to gain way more if they reduce the percentage and standardize the entire thing across India. Plus unnecessarily, okay, I will not say unnecessarily, but हम लोग advantage देते हैं to females to get the registry done. Males are given disadvantage. Why? I mean, ये आज की डेट में भी क्या valid है इस चीज का? I don't think this is valid, and I don't think this should be, a criteria for anybody to get a property registered. अगर मैं दे रहा हूँ, it should be similar. It should be exactly the same. मुझे कोई अलग charges थोड़ी लगने चाहिए उस चीज के लिए. मतलब we are saying जेंडर इक्वालिटी होनी चाहिए और उसको स्टैंडर्डाइज करके 2 to 3% पे ले आओ, चाहे 3% ले आओ. अगर 3% ले आते हैं, अगर आप सर्कल रेट्स को सही कर देते हैं अक्रॉस इंडिया, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं आप मान के चलिए कि पैरिटी आ जाएगी और बहुत अमेजिंग इफेक्ट आएगा इसका ओवरऑल प्रॉपर्टी पे.
Absolutely, completely agree. So, मतलब ultimately we have only been discussing about
Simplification.
standardizations. We have only been discussing about transparency.
Absolutely.
So I think both these things are very, very important. And like when I started my discussion, I clearly said as an individual, when you talk about, we are only talking about transparency.
Yes.
अगर हमारे को ये समझ आ जाए कि टैक्स कहाँ कट रहा है, क्यों कट रहा है, and कैसे probably हम लोग उसको और effective कर सकते हैं. So I think the whole cycle will improve.
आपको अगर एडवांटेज देना है किसी प्रॉपर्टी को तो आप बोलिए इफ इट्स अ ग्रीन प्रॉपर्टी पॉसिबली इसका रजिस्ट्री चार्जेस 1% कम होगा. दैट urges the consumer to go and buy a property which is green. एंड डेवलपर को इंसेंटिवाइज होता है कि यार ये प्रॉपर्टी ग्रीन है, जल्दी बिकेगी, इसकी रजिस्ट्री कम लगती है, कस्टमर भी आ जाएगा. सो व्हाई नॉट डू दैट इंस्टेड ऑफ सेइंग कि अगर फीमेल्स खरीदेंगी तो उनके लिए 5% है, अगर मेल खरीदेगा तो उसके लिए 7% है. सो इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट सिचुएशन दैट यू गेट आउट हियर. आपको देना एडवांटेज दीजिए आप.
हाँ, मतलब there has to be a parameter for giving a discount. Today when you're talking
आप
about
ग्रीन भी दीजिए. आप ग्रीन बिल्डिंग बना रहे हैं, ग्रीन बिल्डिंग पे जाके रजिस्ट्री करा रहे हैं, तो आप उसकी दीजिए आप एडवांटेज कस्टमर को. व्हाई नॉट? डेवलपर को भी एडवांटेज मिलेगा, उसकी प्रॉपर्टी जल्दी बिकेगी.
Very true. I think that's an important point to be covered. That one is standardization. कि ठीक है, आप थोड़ा बहुत डिफरेंस रख सकते हो. We can't say, a fixed stamp duty for everywhere. You can have bare differences looking at the location. For example, अगर कोई tier 2 में है या कोई metro में है, तो वहां पे सेम नहीं हो सकता, but थोड़ा बहुत फर्क हो सकता है. It cannot be a haywire difference which we are talking about here.
True.
And yes, when you're talking about giving benefits, give it for valid reasons. Not, कि ठीक है, कुछ भी हमने उस पे, just because for a woman, being a woman myself, but that's okay. Just because, आपको वहां पे घर अपनी वाइफ के नाम पे कराना है, तो आपकी वाइफ अगर ओनर है तो हम उसमें ये कर देंगे. So daughter is the owner of the property, so you get this discount. That's not logical. It's absolutely not logical. Yeah.
I mean, not anymore. Possibly 50 years ago, it was logical. Maybe not now.
So probably, that
and
shift.
not in the tier 1 cities for sure.
Even in tier 2, there are a lot of women entrepreneurs I have seen coming in from tier 2, tier 3 cities and doing commendable job. And not in metros, in tier 2, tier 3. They're exceptionally doing well.
Correct. So
I think
change is required.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for your thought, and I'll go back to Arunji on this. So, Arunji, when we're talking about in the northern markets like NCR, developers are increasingly converting land for industrial use. As this trend accelerates, does the warehouse sector risk being crowded out of prime logistics location? Should the union budget encourage states to earmark dedicated warehousing locations? So, if you think that would help marking the warehousing locations.
Yes, so basically NCR, or it's not just NCR, maybe any metro at a broader level. Since we're talking about NCR, while this conversation was going on, I was checking some data points and I saw that Delhi's population has been increasing almost 2.5% annually. And like GDPs for the country, there's a concept called GSDP, which is for the straight domestic product. It has been increasing at almost 9% per annum. That means population is increasing, purchasing power is increasing, but at a broader level, infrastructure is not increasing. And the biggest challenge here is, apart from the rapid land conversion that is happening for industrial and commercial use, there is much higher competition that is happening from manufacturing, for offices, for data centers, for home segment, because in order to accommodate these increase. So yes, the risk is there and structural. It's not just a temporary risk. It will continue to go because that is the trend and pattern that we are kind of seeing. Although, and you might be surprised to say that last year, Delhi NCR recorded the almost 14 million square feet of organized grade A warehousing, which was the highest ever for the region.
Fantastic.
The H2 2025 alone was almost 96% increase over the last year. So even the adjacent areas like Gurgaon, Sonipat, Faruk Nagar, they have seen very significant, you can say, increase in warehouse capacity. So that very well shows that the market is not weakening, it's expanding. It's the same space and competing not just with warehousing, but competing with office space, with home space, with other things. So the land squeeze is becoming very, very important and critical at a broader level. And just another stats that can kind of quantify is that even the office leasing space saw more than 16 million square feet, which was more than warehouse leasing space. So that shows there's a competition even with the office spaces. So now what happens is, now the importance becomes what is the best connected land. So land is finite. So now the second thing is what is the best connected land, and land values and rentals are rising. So almost double-digit increase we have seen in the last few years, both in the land rate and the rental rate. Now when land and rent rises, now warehouses get forced to move further from the consumption centers, because at a broader level, logistic cost is not increasing that way. Logistic cost, people are trying to squeeze in further. So they accept smaller footprints, they reduce expansion capabilities which are there, and they compromise in turnaround times. So there is some other compromise which is there. More smaller warehouses are in place. Smaller warehouses do not enjoy the economies of scale. So at an overall level, some other kind of inefficiency comes in. At a broader level, logistic cost goes up and the service level goes up. Both the things we get hampered in both the things. So as far as warehousing is considered, it's most of the new construction is happening in the grade A warehouse, which needs better land, not just cheaper land at a broader level. So grade A warehousing needs large continuous land parcels, wider roads, better turning radius, proper power, fire NOC, truck parking utilities. So this whole warehousing is becoming more sensitive towards the right land, not just any land. So the real risk is the logistics sprawl. If the warehousing pushed out of the prime zones in Delhi NCR primarily because of the cost constraint, with longer first and last mile distances, higher line haul cost, more congestion at the periphery, higher delivery time variability, which increases the national logistic cost at a broader level and makes India less competitive. So my suggestion for the union budget is that the union budget can be we can say strong catalyst to this trigger of maybe creating freight-oriented warehousing zones, which have got enabled infrastructure, approvals, and incentives, which can work at an economies of scale. So we are able to get in the efficiencies that we cannot get from smaller warehouses. It's like a dedicated warehouse zoning. There can be a policy for that. Maybe we can call it warehousing and logistic zone, just for an hypothetical, and interlinked with PM Gati Shakti. Now the challenge with this is it would have some viability gaps. And for that, we might require viability gap funding for maybe truck terminals, common infrastructure for these warehousing and logistic zones, and funding priority for last mile connectivities, GPS link planning under PM Gati Shakti principles. So a lot of these things would be required because no one would put in the infrastructure on a standalone basis, because already logistic is a very, you can say the margins are pretty tight. So it's very difficult to, you do not have surplus cash to do a kind of expansion apart from the bigger companies. And just to give you context, say India, maybe the top organized players don't even constitute of 1% of the total supply chain cost. US, it's more than double digits. So organized players are very small. So even if the organized players are doing something good, it will be very minuscule as compared to the entirety of the nation, and it will not give a big bump. So what we can do is in these warehousing zones or warehousing and logistic zones, we can have kind of a fast track approval system because they are constructed in that way. So this project is earmarked for warehousing. It meets the compliance and checklist. So the whole process becomes much faster. It's like a it's like a pre go ahead. Whenever you put a warehouse there, it's all the approvals are there, so it can kind of fast track those things. But the major thing is the states would have to identify certain, you can say, ring fence land near expressways, freight corridors, industrial nodes, consumption clusters. उनको आपको earmark करना पड़ेगा कि ये warehousing के लिए है. नहीं करेंगे तो some or the other, you can say other, say office space, home segment would kind of occupy that. And later on, we would push the logistics hubs outside the cities and other challenges that I've already said.
Which will not solve the purpose.
Which will not solve the purpose. हमको एरिया ईयरमार्क करना ही पड़ेगा. एक बार कुछ बन गया तो उसके बाद आप नहीं कर पाओगे. तो आपके पूरा लॉजिस्टिक्स का जो नेटवर्क डिजाइन है, it will go for a toss. Warehouses would be smaller, network would be inefficient, so overall costing, congestion बढ़ेगा, सब चीजें बढ़ेगा ही. So that we need to consider, and we can also kind of incentivize, say, multi-tenant logistics park, not just build to suits, which are probably done by the biggers of the client, TVS of the world and other companies. The multi-tenant clients kind of gives the incentive for even smaller players to be part of that ecosystem, which is like a grade A infrastructure. They are shared fire and power and security system, so their net cost comes out to be down. Just to give an example, if I've got a 2,000 square feet warehouse and if I've got a, say, 50,000 square feet warehouse, आपका एक ना कुछ एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड तो आपको 2000 स्क्वायर फीट में भी लगेगा, आपका कुछ ना कुछ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर उसमें लगेगा ही.
बेसिक तो कॉमन ही रहेगा, कुछ
कॉमन रहेगा. लॉजिस्टिक्स जाएगा, you will move material through a smaller truck in the where cost per kg would come out to be higher. So if it's a bigger shared space, bigger space in which all of these costs gets divided, bigger trucks would move in, and at an overall level, due to the automation, manpower efficiency, or you can say overall efficiency would increase. So we can kind of push towards multi-tenant logistic park in which people can maybe take in smaller segments which provide all of this grade A kind of infrastructure, which is far more efficient. And at a broader level, these freight-oriented logistics and warehousing zones or parks gets integrated to the state master plan, have single window approvals, because all of these things are happening there. We can set up a small office there. Viability funding is very important because वो शुरू करने के लिए भी कुछ funding तो चाहिए होगा. So government earmarks certain land that will not be given to other places which are prime for logistics. Otherwise, it will get swallowed by other segments. And then giving incentives linked to compliances, digital readiness, green infra. So at a broader level, like you said, NCR risks losing prime logistics space for warehousing unless and until we kind of work on some of the suggestions that I've said, common infra, connectivity, incentivization, etc. And this ensures that India just doesn't build more warehouses; it also build the right warehouses, like we have discussed earlier, and also right warehouses at the right place. तो पिछली बार हमने कहा था right warehouses होने चाहिए, है ना, efficient warehouses होने चाहिए. But this segment focuses more towards getting the right warehouses in the right place also.
हाँ, right place for the simple reason क्योंकि वो logistically possible हो पाएगा warehouse manage करना. अगर आप किसी end में जाके बना दोगे तो वो possible नहीं है वहाँ पे infrastructure, logistics वगैरह manage करना. I think very well fit on those bases. And like I said, I think it's important that we have a earmark dedicated space for building up warehouses. ठीक है, आप कुछ area जितना भी आपको ठीक लगता है वो mark कर दो and then park it there so that it's not used for residential and other spaces. Great. I think we've had a wonderful discussion with all the eminent speakers right now. Although we had another question with all of you, but I think looking at the time, everybody is running out. So I would like to conclude here. And amazing to have thought process coming in from 3 different segments, from warehousing, from the banking side, and from the real estate, which is an important segment. And और ultimately conclude यहाँ पे यही हो रहा है कि one is the transparencies that we talking about कि ठीक है कि हमारे को transparency दे दो कि कहाँ पे क्या काम कैसे करना है. We should be able to close on that. And 2 is that we are talking about the rebates. In case you want us to do some good work, give us at least some rebates or some discounts to do that work, be it in the form of land or be it in the form of some tax rebates that we're talking about. हमारे को आप कुछ दोगे तभी हम कुछ बड़ा कर पाएंगे. अगर आप बोल रहे हो कि नहीं जी आपको लैंड उसी का कॉस्ट पे मिलेगा, आपको जीएसटी भी उतनी पे करनी है, आपको बेचना में इतने रेट पे, तो थिंग्स विल नॉट मूव एनीवेयर. फिर उसके बाद चाहे हम जितने मर्जी बजट्स बनाते रहे, जितना मर्जी डिस्कशन करते रहे, but the progress will be not which we are expecting right now. So thank you so much everyone for joining this session. It was an amazing discussion with all of you, and I really hope that the budget that we're expecting on Sunday is something very, very positive for all the people in the industry. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Sonal.
Thank you, Kunal sir. It was lovely learning from you. Ashok sir, lovely learning from you. And thank you for
Thanks, Arunji. And if you don't mind, I would like to connect to both of you maybe later on.
I'll share the number. मैं दोनों का number भेज दूंगी आपके साथ. Sure. It's there in the WhatsApp group. जो हमने WhatsApp group बनाया था ना, मैं आपको भेज भी दूंगी. I'll send it across to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Wonderful.